A bride insisted her outdoor beach wedding in July wouldn't need a rain backup plan because I have good vibes and the universe wouldn't ruin my day. When the weather forecast showed 90% chance of thunderstorms, she bought crystals to redirect the weather energy. The wedding day arrived with torrential rain, and she stood in the downpour screaming at the sky for betraying her. 150 guests got soaked while she refused to move the ceremony indoors because this wasn't part of my vision. Photos show everyone miserable and drenched while she smiled through mascara running down her face. Bride demanded her bridesmaids all lose exactly 15 pounds before the wedding so they'd photograph uniformly. She created a group chat with daily weigh-in requirements and meal plans she'd designed despite having zero nutritional knowledge. One bridesmaid was already underweight and her doctor said losing weight would be dangerous. The bride kicked her out of the wedding party for not being committed to my aesthetic vision. 3 other bridesmaids quit in solidarity, and she had to recruit strangers from Craigslist to fill the spots. A woman insisted on having her wedding on February 30th because it's a rare date that would make our anniversary special. Her wedding planner tried explaining that February 30th doesn't exist on any calendar. She argued that it should exist and demanded they just make it work somehow. After an hour of trying to explain basic calendar facts, the planner suggested February 29th on a leap year. She refused because that's not unique enough, and accused the planner of lacking creativity. Bride wanted a surprise wedding, where guests thought they were coming to her birthday party but it was actually her wedding. She didn't tell the groom it was a surprise either, so he showed up in jeans and a t-shirt. When the officiant appeared and guests realized what was happening, half of them left because they had other plans. The groom was furious about being ambushed into marriage without proper notice. She cried about everyone ruining her creative vision, and blamed them for not appreciating surprises. A bride fired her photographer mid-ceremony because the photos didn't look like Pinterest boards in real time. She'd been checking his camera screen every 5 minutes and critiquing his work during her own vows. She demanded he Photoshop and filter images instantly while shooting. When he explained that professional editing takes time after the event, she called him incompetent. She finished the wedding with no photographer and tried suing him for the full day despite firing him after 30 minutes. Bride insisted on a no blinking rule during the ceremony because she didn't want anyone's eyes closed in photos. She hired someone to watch guests and report anyone who blinked during key moments. Multiple elderly guests were called out for their excessive blinking and asked to leave. Her own grandmother was escorted out for not controlling her natural reflexes. The bride reviewed photos later and cried because she herself had blinked in 3 pictures. A woman demanded all guests dye their hair neutral colors before her wedding because rainbow hair clashes with my color scheme. She sent personalized hair dye kits to everyone with instructions on exact shades. When people refused, she uninvited them and replaced them with strangers who agreed to temporary dye. Her sister showed up with her natural red hair and was physically blocked from entering. The bride's perfectly coordinated guest color palette looked creepy and cult-like in photos. Bride required all female guests to be uglier than her, actually sending beauty guidelines they couldn't exceed. No makeup allowed, hair in buns, no jewelry, and only beige dresses she provided. She wanted to ensure she was the prettiest person there without competition. Several naturally beautiful guests were uninvited for genetic advantages that threatened the bride's spotlight. Photos show a gorgeous bride surrounded by deliberately frumpy guests looking miserable. She posted them proudly, not understanding why people were horrified. A bride uninvited her maid of honor 3 days before the wedding because she got engaged and stole her thunder. The maid of honor's fiancé had proposed privately, and she'd quietly shared the news. The bride accused her of planning this to overshadow my wedding week. She demanded the maid of honor break off her engagement to restore focus to the right bride. When refused, she sent a bill for the bridesmaid dress and threatened legal action. Their 15-year friendship ended over a perceived engagement timing conspiracy. Bride insisted her wedding cake be made entirely of cheese because she doesn't like sweet things. The baker created a beautiful tiered cheese will cake as requested. At the reception, she cried because it doesn't taste like wedding cake and demanded a refund. Guests were confused as she cut into cheese and expected vanilla flavor. She accused the baker of sabotaging her wedding by making exactly what I asked for but not what I wanted. The baker showed her the signed contract specifying all cheese. A woman scheduled her wedding during her best friend's funeral because the venue was only available that day. She insisted her friend would have wanted her to be happy and would understand. She got offended when the friend's family called her heartless and selfish. Multiple guests skipped her wedding to attend the funeral instead. She posted on social media about people choosing a dead person over her special day and couldn't understand why everyone was angry. Bride demanded her fiancé's ex-girlfriend be a bridesmaid to show everyone I won. The ex obviously declined, and the bride showed up at her workplace to harass her. She created a social media campaign about the ex refusing to support true love. When the ex got a restraining order, the bride played victim about jealous women ruining weddings. On the wedding day, she had a cardboard cutout of the ex made to stand with bridesmaids. The groom was mortified but she thought it was hilarious. A bride required all guests to sign NDAs before attending so they couldn't post photos before she did. She hired lawyers to draft 10-page legal documents for a backyard wedding with 30 people. Several guests refused to sign and were turned away at the door despite traveling across the country. She sued 3 people for posting congratulations on Facebook without images. The legal fees cost more than the entire wedding, and she won nothing because the NDAs were unenforceable. Bride insisted on a no children wedding but expected her sister to leave her nursing newborn at home for 8 hours. When her sister said that was impossible and declined to attend, the bride called CPS claiming neglect. She genuinely believed leaving a 3-week-old baby was reasonable for her wedding photos. CPS investigated, found nothing wrong, and warned the bride about false reports. She still doesn't understand why her sister won't speak to her and blames her for choosing a baby over family. A woman wanted her wedding dress to cost more than $50,000 but had a $5,000 budget total. She visited high-end boutiques expecting them to give her runway gowns for free for the exposure. She cried in every shop when they wouldn't donate designer dresses to her. She started a GoFundMe for her dream dress that raised $200. She bought a cheap dress online and spent the entire reception complaining it wasn't Vera Wang. Her marriage lasted 6 months but she still has the dress preserved in her storage unit. Bride banned her pregnant sister-in-law from the wedding because pregnancy bumps draw attention away from the bride. She claimed it was selfish to be pregnant during her wedding year. When the family defended the pregnant woman, the bride uninvited all of them. She had a wedding with mostly the groom's friends who barely knew her. The marriage is now strained because his entire family wasn't welcome at their own relative's wedding, and she still thinks she was right. A bride demanded her fiancé propose again because the first proposal wasn't Instagram-worthy enough. He proposed privately at home, and she wanted a public spectacle with photographers. She planned an entire fake proposal, hired photographers, and made him re-propose at a restaurant. Other diners were confused watching this staged event. She posted the fake proposal online claiming it was real and got exposed when someone posted the truth. She defended it saying, proposals should be perfect, and didn't see the problem with scripting an engagement. Bride required all guests to bring gifts worth at least $200 or they couldn't attend, with price tags left on for verification. She hired someone to check gifts at the door and turn away anyone with cheaper presents. An elderly aunt brought a handmade quilt she'd worked on for months, and it was rejected for having no monetary value. The gift bouncer created such chaos that police were called. She later complained about cheap guests on social media and calculated she'd lost money by hosting people with inadequate gifts. A woman postponed her wedding 3 times because the weather wasn't perfect enough for photos. She'd planned an outdoor ceremony and refused to proceed unless it was exactly 75 degrees and sunny. Guests traveled for each date, hotels were booked and lost, vendors charged cancellation fees. After the 3rd postponement, the groom called it off entirely. She blamed him for not caring about aesthetic perfection, and the weather for refusing to cooperate with my vision. Bride insisted her vows be longer than the groom's and actually counted his words to ensure hers exceeded his. She wrote a 20-minute speech while limiting him to 2 minutes. During the ceremony, she kept checking her watch during his vows and interrupted him saying, "That's enough." Her vows were so long guests started sitting down and checking phones. The officiant tried to move things along, and she snapped at him for rushing her moment. The ceremony took 90 minutes for just the vow exchange. A bride fired her entire bridal party 1 month before the wedding and hired professional models to replace them. She wanted her photos to look like a magazine spread and felt her friends weren't photogenic enough. The models didn't know her, had no emotional connection, and looked confused during speeches. Her real friends boycotted the wedding, and the models left immediately after photos for their next gig. Wedding pictures look like a fashion shoot with strangers, and she has no real friends anymore. Bride demanded the reception venue remove all exit signs because they ruined the aesthetic of her photos. The venue explained fire codes and safety regulations made this illegal. She threatened to sue them for not accommodating her vision and leave bad reviews. She brought fabric to cover the signs herself, and the fire marshal shut down the event. Her wedding was cancelled mid-reception due to safety violations, and she blamed everyone except herself for sabotaging her perfect day. A woman required her bridesmaids to cut their hair short because she was the only one allowed to have long hair at the wedding. She sent them specific haircut requirements and expected them to pay for dramatic transformations. When they refused, she bought wigs and demanded they wear them to appear short-haired. 3 bridesmaids quit rather than alter their appearance for someone else's photos. She replaced them with people willing to cut their hair, who she'd met 2 weeks prior and barely knew. Bride uninvited her mother-in-law for wearing white to the bridal shower, even though the bride had requested an all-white dress code. When reminded that she'd specifically asked everyone to wear white, she said, "I meant guests, not the mother-in-law." She expected her to psychically know she was excluded from her own dress code. The groom defended his mother, causing a huge fight. The mother-in-law attended the wedding in black as a silent protest, and the bride had her edited out of all photos. A bride scheduled wedding dress shopping but expected the bridal shop to be closed to other customers, so she could have privacy. She showed up to a normal busy Saturday and had a meltdown that other brides were there. She demanded the store kick everyone else out for her appointment. When they refused, she tried on dresses while screaming at other customers to stop looking at her. Security escorted her out, and she left 1-star reviews claiming discrimination. She never found a dress because she was banned from every bridal shop in the area. Bride required all guests to take dance lessons before the wedding so the reception would look coordinated and professional. She sent mandatory practice schedules and YouTube tutorials. Guests who refused or couldn't dance well enough were uninvited. The reception looked like a flash mob with confused people attempting choreography. Half the guests left early from exhaustion, and the other half never spoke to her again. She posted the videos proudly calling it the most coordinated wedding ever, while everyone else cringed. A woman demanded her vendors work for free because the exposure from my 300-person wedding is worth more than money. She approached a photographer, caterer, florist, and DJ with this proposal. When they all declined, she accused them of not supporting small weddings and love. She planned to pay them in social media shoutouts and positive energy. She ended up with no vendors, had to cancel, and blamed greedy businesses for ruining her wedding. She never understood that exposure doesn't pay anyone's rent.